Chuck Whitlock is the Interim Executive Director at UNCW Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and I believe he's also the guy in those beer commercials who's described as the most interesting man in the world. Every time I talk to Chuck, I learn about another unbelievable or experience or accomplishment he's had in his career. Today, Chuck will talk with us about entrepreneurship. Please join me in welcoming him to the stage.
Thank you, Al. I don't know if any of you saw City Slickers a long time ago, and Jack Palance was sitting up on his horse 12 feet high, and Billy Crystal came up to him, and Jack Palance looked down and he said, "The secret to life is one thing." And Crystal looked up and said, "What is it?" "It's one thing." And then Jack Palance died that night, and Billy Crystal never found out what it was. Well, I'm here to tell you something. Success in business is really about two things. Two things. And I hope to be able to share that with you before I die. So I'm going to talk fast. The two things are that you have to stay true to your core business. Don't dilute yourself. Don't try to be all things to all people. I owned an executive training company in Portland, Oregon. We had about 500 members, including Nike, Intel, US Bank. And we looked at what made companies successful and why did companies fail. I was especially interested in it because first half of my career, I failed as often as I succeeded. And I knew the pain of failure, but I never really was able to figure out just what it was that caused me to fail. I was aggressive. I really wanted to be successful. I thought I was doing everything right, and then I was blindsided by things that I hadn't anticipated. But what I later found out after spending a fortune with my executive officers club, we ran it for 22 years. Every year, I dedicated hundreds of thousands of dollars to one thing. I invested in professors all over the world. I charged them with telling me why vertical industries were successful. And they came back, and over again, they said it's two things. The first thing is stay true to your business, your core business. Don't try to be all things to all people. I want to repeat that. The second thing they said is find multiple revenue sources from your core business. I'm going to give you a couple of examples because I have a limited amount of time. I can't really go into a lengthy explanation about how you do that. But I can tell you this. Innovation, entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship, if you're employed by a company, it can be purposeful. You can be proactively engaged in innovation. And what I'm going to show you this morning are just a couple of things businesses where I was innovative that resulted in a real positive, successful business employing thousands of people. The first thing I want to tell you about is the beginning of my career as an entrepreneur. You might be surprised to find out the beginning of my career as an entrepreneur was that of a policeman. I worked for a small police department in Ohio while I was going to school, and I loved police work. I especially loved fraud, investigating white-collar crime, people that ripped off seniors, people that were taking advantage with investment fraud. I particularly liked intellectual crime. But as luck would have it, I had a young family, I finished my education, and I needed to support that family. So I started writing books. And the first books were business books, and then I went on to write true crime. The reason I went on to write true crime is because I asked my agent in New York, I said, I really want to sell more books than I'm selling. I'd only sold a few 100,000 books. And, you know, at $2 a book and over a 4-year period, it really isn't all that much money. He said, you have to write about sex or crime. I went home and I told Candace, my wife, I said, I have to write about sex or crime. Her response was a single word, crime. So I took a year and I did some research. I went to school with a friend of mine that was with the FBI in Minneapolis. There was another friend of mine, Mark Coffey, became the head of fraud for the Portland Police Department. And I went out on their investigations with them, developed wonderful relationships. I wrote my first book, Easy Money. The National Enquirer said it was the best book ever written on white-collar crime. And I was so excited.
First, I'd like to introduce you to Chuck Whitlock. He's the author of this book. It's called Easy Money.
I started going on national television shows promoting my book. And you may have seen, and I began writing more books. In fact, Oprah named Scam School. She said, Chuck, I want you to write another book, but about your investigations, because I've become an investigative reporter for national television. And I continue to write true crime books. Medi-Scams became a bestseller worldwide, printed in 48 languages. I want to tell you today, my number one message to you is don't be afraid to be called an opportunist. I'm an opportunist. I loved police work. And when I saw a window of opportunity to write true crime books, I thought, hey, I think I'll go on TV shows, I'll promote the book. And then I became so popular doing the TV shows, I started charging people to do them. And so here I am on The View.
We're the sweetheart compared to con artists who use holiday scams to get a hold of your cash, credit cards, and personal info. So we called in a fraud expert to show us the biggest scams of this holiday season. Please welcome ExperienceProtectMyID.com, Chuck Whitlock. Welcome, Chuck.
Shows, but you'll notice Protect My ID.
Whitlock, investigative reporter who uses undercover cameras. His pieces have appeared on numerous magazine shows. This past year, he received a national award for investigative reporting.
So I'm not only going on television shows promoting my books, but I'm also doing undercover investigative reports. I hired my own camera crews, and I started producing television shows for 60 Minutes, Dateline, Inside Edition, Extra. Every national show came to me because I was the go-to person for fraud. So again, you see all these multiple income sources are coming from a single product. I write books. I produce TV shows based on the research. That produces revenue. I become a national spokesman for Experian, and since then 50 other national companies. Each of them pay me a fee. Multiple revenue sources. Then I develop an online training program for law enforcement. Today, if you're a police officer in Ohio, you have to take one of my online courses in fraud. Every police officer in the state of Nevada, in the state of Alaska, all these police officers are learning about white-collar crime, investigating identity theft, and other intellectual crime from my online training programs. It all came from my passion for criminology when I was a cop while I was going to school. So to be passionate about what you're doing.
That wouldn't have bothered people like Cole and Upton at all.
So it's been a wonderful career. I give speeches all over the world about white-collar crime. I train, in fact, I'll be giving a speech at ILM Airport, I think in April, to airport directors about how they can protect themselves from airport fraud, from people gaining entree to secured areas by using fraud. I also have online cyber training programs and all kinds of programs, but that's another revenue source. Here's my last revenue source.
Chief Whitlock.
Chief Whitlock.
Thanks to you. Go to the scuttlebutt. Just tell him Chief Whitlock said everything's okay. Chief Whitlock. Yeah.
What I do is I write scripts for feature films, about 60 of them to date. They pay me a fee. And my fee is $50,000 to write that portion of the script that has to do with white-collar crime. But I give them a $20,000 discount if they'll use my name in the movie. Excuse me. So, when you go to the movies, in fact, there's one coming out here in about a week. When you hear Whitlock, you'll know that I wrote that portion of the script. I don't write the whole script, just that portion of the script that has to do with the white-collar crime elements. But here's my point, and please take it to heart. All of these different revenue sources come from one product, my books, my true crime books. And I apply that in my life, and I urge you to apply it in your life. These are the kinds of things that we talk about at the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We've introduced so many new programs I'm so excited about in 2016. We have programs to help businesses in trouble. We have monthly events to help with finance, with management, with HR issues. We really are excited about the future of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And before I finish, I just want to thank some of the folks at CIE, mostly Ron Vetter and Dr. Galbraith, you guys are sitting over there, for giving me the opportunity to bring my entrepreneurial experiences, my successes, and to be able to share my failures with local business owners, students, and faculty at the university. It has been a wonderful experience, and for that I'll be eternally indebted. This is a polymer. While I was making all this money, I invested in this product. It absorbs 1,000 times its weight in water. A minute ago, this was a glass of water. And you think, okay, that's great. I was at some oil wells in northern Oklahoma. I was investing in horizontal drilling. And I asked the field manager, I said, what's that powder you're putting down the hole? He said, well, that's a polymer. It absorbs 1,000 times its weight in water. I thought, boy, that's really exciting. Where is it made? He gave me the name of the company in Chicago. I flew back to Chicago. I met with the president. I said, this is a wonderful product. How else do you use it other than oil wells? He said, that's the only thing. That's all we use it for. I said, well, can I have the exclusive rights to this product other than oil wells? He said, well, sure, but you have to buy a minimum number of pounds. I said, how many? He said, 1,000 pounds. How much is it a pound? $1 a pound. I said, for $1,000, you're going to give me the exclusive rights to this product for everything other than oil wells? He said, yes, that's absolutely true. I gave him a check for $1,000. I went back to Orange County, California. I hired a firm that hermetically sealed 1-pound cans, put Aqua Miracle around the can. I went to QVC. It was offered on QVC, and I sold tens of thousands of cans of polymer. Then I started licensing vertical markets. I thought, hey, wouldn't it be great to put polymer in baby diapers? It'll keep the urine away from the child and absorb the oil. Hey, why don't we put it in pads for pets? Cats actually can be taught to do their business in one location. And then we came up with about 40 other ideas. We actually developed medical pads with polymer in it. An HIV patient came in the emergency room, you could throw it on the ground, it would absorb all the blood. And nursing staff wouldn't have to touch that contagious material. So we came up with all these vertical markets. We licensed it, we got royalties for it, and in case you're wondering why I'm standing before you not a multi-billionaire, it's because my exclusive license evaporated after about 6 years. So I made a lot of money for a very short time, but I wasn't smart enough to hire a really good law firm and lock it up forever. Because today, baby diapers account for about 42 million pounds of polymer. Now, in the old days, I would have received a lot of money per pound. Today, I don't receive anything. But my point is this. I took that one product, I licensed all those vertical markets, and as a consequence, I did very well. The last thing I'm going to show you is I was giving a workshop just like this in Minneapolis. I'm not very good at this. Okay, so I'm giving a workshop. And I'm talking to people about finding two revenue sources and making money from their primary product. And then I invited the audience. I said, tell me what your product or service is, and I'll bet you I can find multiple income sources. Because I had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop software programs to look at every vertical market and figure out where all the different profits sources could come from. And I was very proud of that software that I had developed. And one guy stood up, he said, well, I make balloons. What can you do for me? Well, how much do you get for the balloons? 2 cents. All right, you have a 2-cent product. Let me put this through my software, and I'll come back and tell you what I think you can do with your balloons. The very first thing that my system came up with was the balloons can be used for a magic trick. Magicians can put this rod right through the balloon, and then when everybody thinks, oh my goodness, it's a trick balloon, it's not. Well, what people don't realize is there's more rubber on the bottom and top of a balloon, and the sides are half the thickness. So you add a 40-cent rod to a 2-cent balloon, and you have a $27 magic trick. I own stock in the company, and I'm here to tell you that our other products now account for 87% of our gross sales. One other thing I'll tell you, I came back to the balloon manufacturer and I said, look at this. You put a little balloon material on the edge of this little device that goes into a respirator, lung capacity testing equipment, and you have a component with the rubber material the same thickness as on the bottom of the balloon. This cost me about 1/10 of 1 cent, sells for $52. So you take a 2-cent product, you're making $27, you're making $52. Are you still making a $2 product or a 2-cent product? Or have you figured out, are your hands around how you can make more money with what you already own, your existing asset base? Have you figured out how to make more money with it? That's innovation. And if you're successful at finding the $27 product, the $52 product from your core intellectual property, you're going to be hiring 2, 3, 4 times more people here in New Hanover County. And when you do that, our young people can stay here. So it's very important for you to think innovation, stay in touch with the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Last thing, please look at in front of you there's a card. There's a red thing that says don't open it until you hear my talk. Please go ahead and open that. Some of you have a lottery ticket. In fact, 100 of you have a lottery ticket. Now, over the next 30 seconds, would you please scratch your lottery ticket and let me see if you won anything? Go ahead and scratch your lottery ticket, take out a nickel, scratch it, and see if you won a prize. Now, while you're doing that, there's 8 of you left at the table that did not get a lottery ticket. You represent the 80% of American industry, 80+% that have not figured out how to find multiple revenue sources. You need work. There's work that has to be done. And the center can help you do it. We're here to help you. I want you to keep that in mind. Now, those of you that have scratched the cards, how many of you, I want to see a show of hands, won something? Huh? What did you win? $3. $3. Do we have more than $3? More than $3? How much? $20. All right, that's my ticket. Bring it up here. All right, listen. My point is this. Don't leave your success to chance. Be purposeful and proactive and be successful. Thanks.